Hello, good afternoon. So today we're looking at functionalism and the inverted spectrum. On Wednesday, we'll look at John Searle's classic article, Can Computers Think?, where he gave the Chinese room argument that still reverberates around the world. There's no lecture on Friday. I'll be away on Friday. Let's just go back to the beginning of the class. We were talking about imagination and whether you can imagine the mental life of a bat. And the argument there was you might know everything there is to know scientifically about the bat. You might pull every cell in the bat apart. You might have a comprehensive understanding of how the bat's wired. But still not know anything about its mental life. So you could have a complete box and arrow diagram of the bat, but still not know the first thing about what's going on in there, what it's like for the bat. So the general point there seems to be, certainly the classical interpretation of that would have been, that there's a kind of imaginative understanding we have of each other and of the world around us that just can't be replaced by science. An imaginative understanding of each other is an independent and autonomous kind of knowledge that is just different to scientific knowledge. And the mind is something that we can fully understand only imaginatively. You can't have a purely scientific understanding of the mind. That's a natural interpretation of that. And the inverted spectrum kind of argument that we're about to look at, you can see that as developing that idea. It's one way of developing that idea. Let's just go back a minute, though, to think about functional role. I just want to be absolutely certain that we're all on board with what functionalism is. So we're all completely happy with the idea that you can specify the functional role of a state by giving a big list of the possible inputs to that state, and for each input saying what state you'll get next and what motor output you'll get for that input. That's very abstract, but it just means what it says. I mean, it's as simple and abstract as what I just said. Put up your hand if you're comfortable with that as what functional role is. And if you're not comfortable, and you can put your finger on what the problem is. Okay. Well, just to be completely explicit about this, suppose you take I just want to go over this just the way we did last time. Suppose you take a mental state like expecting someone to come for tea at 4 o'clock, and then you get as input to that state the clock dial coming round to 4 o'clock. What kind of thing do you get as output then? Is this a generation thing? Do you guys know what I mean when I say having someone to tea at 4 o'clock? Does that still go on? Hello? I mean, what would you do? Well, yeah. Exactly. That was what Wittgenstein said, yeah. You look out the window, right? Exactly, yeah. So you get his output looking out the window. You get his output for that input. You get his output getting the tea things together to make tea, getting out the cups, that kind of thing. Looking at your watch again, saying, is he going to be late? Okay? So you can talk about the functional role of that state, expecting someone for tea at 4 o'clock. But then, when you've specified the functional role, you've said everything there is to say about what that state is. There's no possibility of someone doing all that stuff, but not really be expecting someone to come for tea at 4 o'clock. You see what I mean? You can just subtract that expecting someone to come for tea at 4 o'clock, and I just told you what the whole state is when I've specified all those inputs and outputs. Yeah? It's not like there's some inner feeling that might be there or not. All there is to it is that you do all that stuff. That's functionalism. Is that okay? Put up your hand if that's okay. Boy, very good. Okay. Just one other example. Suppose you're asking about someone. Suppose you're saying, does he miss Sally? Is he missing Sally? And he says, no, I'm not missing Sally. I'm glad she's gone. But then if you give him his input mentioning Sally's name, he bursts into tears. You get his output. He says, would that she were here. And so on. If you get all those appropriate outputs for all the inputs, then he's missing Sally. There's no more to missing Sally than that. Yep?
The output doesn't have to be physical, right?
It does not have to be physical, right? It might be that all that happens when you mention Sally is his bosom is gnawed by remorse. Yeah, right. And that's not an outward state, right? He might do that without moving a muscle. Yeah. Okay, so we're all comfortable with what functionalism is. So it seems pretty plausible for those kinds of states, for something like missing Sally or expecting someone to come for tea at 4 o'clock. But then the question is, does that work for every kind of mental state? And the kind of objection we're going to look at now says it doesn't work for sensations, it doesn't work for experience, and in particular, it doesn't work for color experience. So I just want to think a little bit about experiences of color. Okay, if you look at the one on the left and the one in the middle and the one on the right, you're experiencing 3 different colors. That's all right? You have 3 different color sensations. Follow me very closely. These are 3 different color sensations, and when we talk about the sensations, we're not really talking about something out there. We're talking about something in your mind. Right? That's different when you look at the one on the left, the one in the middle, and the one on the right. So these 3 different experiences you have, the technical term that people use is qualia. Right? These are 3 different color qualia. Okay, here's a possibility. Suppose you woke up one morning and you found that all the colors of all the objects around you were different. So the sky's a different color to the way it used to be. The sky seems red. The fire trucks seem blue. There's been a systematic change in the color of everything. But although you're very upset and bewildered, it looks like. So that's the way it looks before you go to sleep, and then that's the way it looks afterwards. Look at that. So is that quite clear? Before you go to sleep, after you go to sleep? Right? You want it one more time? Right. Okay. So it's quite different, right? You can see that. That was quite different, yeah? But nobody else notices any difference. Well, at first, that's going to be very confusing. At first, you're going to be talking different to everybody else. But over time, you'll be able to adjust your color words so you talk the same way as other people. If you're in a store and you say, I'd like the red one, I'd like the green one, in order to get the one you want, you'll have to vary the words you're using so you talk to apply the green to the same objects as everyone else applies the word green to. So you could adjust like that. And actually, after you've adjusted and you're using your color words just the same way as everybody else does, it might be that you just forget that all this happened. Maybe you're sometimes haunted by the thought, it seems like a dream, but the colors used to be different. But no, that can't be, you say to yourself. So at that point, are your color experiences the same as everyone else's, or are they different? Are your qualia the same as everyone else's, or are they different? Yeah? Could you prove it? Yeah. How? I don't know. Is it a proven thing that it's the same, that you're getting the same right now? Yeah. I don't really see how it could be a proven thing, do you? Yeah. So you mean, okay, so maybe that's what's going on right now? And maybe it was like that since birth. Maybe I was just born getting the colours different to everybody else. Maybe you were just born getting the colours different to everybody else. Maybe everyone's different. Maybe there's maybe there's no saying what's normal. Yeah, as so often. Yeah, that could be, right? So it could be that all our colour experiences are round different ways from everyone else's. So maybe you were born that way, or maybe we weren't. We don't really know. Our colour experiences or colour qualia might be exactly the same, or they might not be. It seems to make a difference. What goes on when you imagine someone else's mental life? That will have to be different if you're to get it right about their mental life, depending on which way around their qualia are. But there seems to be no way you could tell which way around it goes. People sometimes say, well, blue is a very cold colour. Red is nice and warm. Yeah, stuff like that. So you could say, well, there are going to be differences in your emotional reactions to the colours. Which colours seem neutral and pleasing? Which colours seem kind of jangly and upsetting? There will be that. But presumably those things about red is very disturbing or whatever, presumably those have to do with things like red's the colour of blood, red's the colour of fire, blue's the colour of the sea, and so on. I mean, these affective or emotional associations with that we have with the colours. If they were round, if the colours were all round a different way from you than for me from birth, then presumably we'd associate these emotional things with just the same objects. You would find blood just as upsetting as I find blood. So what you call red, you'd find just as upsetting as what I call red, if you see what I mean. Yep. So the general point is here, there's something systemic about the colours, and there could be a systemic shift in which colour sensations you and I are having, which keeps our structure. So you think of all the colours being arranged like this, then you could find an axis about which the colours are symmetric, and then just map them so that what you get when you look at the scene on the left is the same as what I get when I look at the scene on the right. You see what I mean? Can you put your hand up if you don't quite see what I'm getting at there? Yes? Okay. If you don't see what I'm getting at there. Okay, well, does it make sense to say that the experience you have when you look on the left, it might be that the experience I have when I look at the thing on the right is the same as the experience you have when you look at the thing on the left. Yeah. So all my colour sensations are round a different way to yours. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So it could be like that for each of us. I mean, there could be so much variation among all of us. Yeah. Maybe lots of different ways of mapping the colours. I mean, it could be that you and I still agree about which colours are in between which colours are lighter than which colours are purer than which. We could agree in which colours are binary colours like orange or pure colours like red. The very simplest case would be if you and I have only black and white vision. Yeah, maybe you and I don't have colour at all, but it could still be that what you see when you look at that is what I get when I look at that. Okay. So my general point is the one that you guys got 5 minutes ago, that if your colour experiences or mine are different in that way,